All right. So, hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm Tom, and I lead marketing here at Ever After. Today, we're going to focus on a very interesting topic, specifically in days like these, and that's the rise of the full stack CSM. Even though the CS world is considered relatively new, it evolves in a very rapid pace, and new practices are constantly being shared thanks to the amazing ecosystem of the CS community. And these days of the tech slowdown, as companies are kind of rethinking how they organize their CS team and optimize efficiency without increasing headcounts, it becomes even more valuable to understand what are the real options out there as far as how you build and structure your team. So I'm sure we're going to have a very fruitful discussion today. Just before we start, I want to remind you, please ask as many questions as you'd like in the chat, and our panelists will respond to them either during the session or at the Q&A at the end, and that this session is being recorded, and we're going to send you the recording right after. So let's dive right in. I'd like to start with a quick round of introduction. Maybe, Angela, why don't you start and kind of introduce yourself, a little bit of your background and such.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, and so nice to be here, Christian, Kobe, and all of you. I'm 12 years, I've been this past 6 years, journey from Survey 2, where I started in IC as a support agent, then CX into the customer success management team. And after that, I moved to Belvo, completely different model, fintech, very heavy. That I love PLG companies. I love being able to work with product and use myself as an end user. And so around ago, I Claap, a synchronous video collaboration tool to allow teams to collaborate asynchronously bring the interactivity and the contact and get from meetings, but with asynchronous flexibility of written communication. Super happy to be here and talk about this topic.
Wonderful. Kobe?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Kobe, the Director of Customer Success at Sealights. I'm with Sealights in the last 5 years, leading the CS team from scratch. So I actually had the pleasure to build the department from scratch till what it became today. And before that, I will say that in the last 15 years, I've been working with customers. I used to work for a company called Mavenir in the period before Sealights, manage a group of project managers, support team. I think that we can even call it kind of a semi-customer success before it was even called customer success. And that's pretty much it. I'm based out of Israel. And I'm familiar with the Ever After team, Shachar and Noah. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Very cool. Christy?
Thank you so much, Tom. Pleasure to be here. My name is Christy Falteruso. I'm currently the Chief Customer Officer at ClientSuccess. We're a customer success management solution. But prior to joining ClientSuccess, where I've been for the past 1.5 years, I've actually spent the past decade at hypergrowth SaaS companies, building, scaling, and transforming customer success organizations. Prior to that, I spent a decade in marketing, which I do feel helped build a solid foundation for a lot of the work that we do in customer success. But my primary remit today is overseeing our customer growth organization is what I would call it, not post-sales, because we sell, but I'm responsible for our customer success organization, our customer support organization, and professional services here at ClientSuccess. So thrilled to be here. I think that I've got a lot to contribute on this topic, so I'm very excited to be part of the discussion.
Very nice. We're happy to have all of you. So let's dive into kind of the first introductory question. What is a full stack CSM? How would you kind of explain that term? What does that mean for you? Who wants to jump right in?
I can take. So when I wrote that the LinkedIn post, I was coming from my experience of being the first CS hire. When the founder is ready to give the CS reins to a new hire. And I found I found the success in my role by motivation, the passion to touch the multiple areas that a CS org, not only a CSM team, but a CS org is responsible for, right? Support tickets, documentation, digital CS, even building community to some scale. And the reason behind that when you have to start with nothing is built, from my experience, when the founders are responsible for CS, it's all one-to-one. They're trying to get as many feedback as they can from the beta tester or users. So they are now ready to put something in place to try to scale a little bit. It's almost like it has happened at the same time. The taking from 0 to 1, not to 2, not to 3. That comes with specialization, I know, and the really deep expertise in different areas. But to start with, now you have to put some help centers in some articles in the help center. You have to answer to customers, start onboarding one-on-one, the more important ones. So it's having this almost like in the marketing, they call it T-shaped marketing, having a bit of knowledge to put the baseline in place. For me, that's what I refer to as full stack CSM.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just add on to that. So I think, Angela, I think you captured that pretty accurately, right? We're kind of responsible for everything. The way I think about it is an individual who's responsible for the entire life cycle of the partnership, right? So when you think about a customer journey or life cycle, you're owning everything from new to renew, right? So onboarding, ongoing engagement, maybe troubleshooting and being that technical expertise. You're managing the renewal and growth opportunities, right? And everything that happens in between that. And so I kind of think about it as like a jack of all trades, for better or worse. And we know that the following sentence to that is master of none. And so, individuals who are stepping into that role, I think we'll talk about the different timings and where that makes sense, but you're really responsible for a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's extremely important, as Angela mentioned, as the first hire. I can tell you that typically when looking at these kind of hires, you should look at these people as the potential managers who can lead and help you grow the organization. In some cases, they will be called the head of or leads. And of course, if you are a VP customer success that is building a team, you will definitely need like kind of an all-around player. So we can definitely speak about it later.
Mm-hmm. All right. So when it comes to the point that you need to kind of determine, should you go for full stack or specialized CSM? How do you think of that? What do you think are the factors that are actually the ones to consider when you make that decision?
I can share with you kind of what kind of model I'm using when building the team or when looking at the team. So definitely there are some elements that you should take into consideration when hiring the first or the second or the first CSM. So obviously the company stage is something that is very important to understand. If the company is more mature versus if it's an early stage startup, if what the customer type looks like, is it a B2B, B2C, B2D, and whether if it's an enterprise customers versus SMBs. You should look about what are the plans to growth. Is it something that will be graduate, or like you expect to get many more customers in a short period of time? So that's probably around the company maturity. Another thing that we need to take into account is the product maturity. If the product is complex, if the product is mature, if it's a nice to have or it's a mission critical solution. So all of these elements will eventually affect the kind of person that you want to add to your team. If you can go maybe to the next slide, there is like a very simple model that I built that pretty much demonstrate which kind of person do you need for each one of the stage. And I chose 2 axes, the product maturity and the company maturity. And as Christy and Angela mentioned earlier, the type 1, the jack of all trades, the all-around player is probably the one that you need as a first hire. And these kind of people know how to do many things. They know how to advocate about the product. They know how to take a product from new to renew, and they know how to do pretty much everything. And as the product become more mature, the key capabilities or the key skills may be changed. So, for example, if the product is more mature and the life cycle of the company is not mature enough, or the sales cycle is not established enough, so you'll probably look for someone who has a good understanding of the product and can take it to other teams, identify opportunities, identify growth, and help the company to scale. Looking at the right section of this graph, you can see the area in which the life cycle of the company is more mature. And there are pretty much two areas there. If your product is mature, and if you're not, you're in kind of a trouble. But these kind of people, I call them Atlas. And these Atlas people are the ones that has very strong product understanding and industry understanding, so they can compensate around the area in the product that are lacking by building best practices and providing support based on the knowledge of the domain. And obviously, the ideal case is in which everything is in place, the product is mature, the company is mature, and you pretty much need to play according to the rules, work according to playbooks, do proper governance, and help the customer to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And what happens right now in your specific organization?
So I will say that we're pretty much between type 3 to type 4. So there are major changes that we are doing in our product right now that can help us to become, let's say, more mature in the product. What I really liked, or what I really love to see in the last year, is that many of the new features eventually came from the customer success department. We worked very closely with the team, with our customers, identified potential use cases, brought the product back to the picture, and helped them to design and build a feature or functionality that is suited around a concrete use case and not just that we think that it will work.
Mm-hmm. Christy, how do you look at those things? Do you relate to that model? Do you evaluate other factors?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I would layer in here that I wouldn't say that this is wrong by any means. I think this is a good foundation. I would separate out specifically maturity versus complexity, right? Because I don't think that those are the same things. You could have a very mature, very easy to use, simple product. My favorite example is Calendly, right? Calendly, which is very mature in the sense of what it does and what it provides, right? There's a lot of functionality in like their premium and enterprise versions of their product, but it's not complex, right? It's not overly difficult to configure. And as a result, how you think about staffing against that is going to be different, right? If it's a product-led growth motion, so if it is, your goal is just, listen, your customers are out there just using the product and it's a freemium model, those things will also impact how you think about staffing and support and all of those elements as well. So I think that like this starts to introduce a good framework, but there are so many variables where it does depend. Now at ClientSuccess, where I am today, I would say that we are pretty mature. The company's been around for a long time and the product is definitely solid in what it does. And I think does what it does very well. There's a lot of innovation that we're continuing to build on, but because of where we are, right, we're still really small. We're still early stage where we haven't received any, Series A, Series B, we've been kind of self-funded. And so because of that, I don't have endless budget to staff a team as large as I'd like. So we've got to get very creative. And so, even thinking about how you scale and build out programs to help support and drive value for your customers doesn't necessarily come just from your people. Your processes have to be very sophisticated in helping you execute as well. So all of those factors, I think that we talked about with a couple others in addition to layer into how we determine what is the best approach to staffing, as well as just orchestrating a program for our customers.
Mm-hmm. And what happens for you right now? Do you have a mixture between those full stack CSMs versus those?
When I started about a year ago, everyone was generically a full stack CSM, managing onboarding, like I said, that new to renew, everything from how we kick off the customer through that entire life cycle. Now, we're not going to be introducing specific specialty roles, but what we have done is, because I've hired individuals with different experiences and strengths, each of them is taking lead as a specialist in addition to being a full stack CSM. So I've got an individual on my team who loves content creation, does a really great job of thinking through kind of customer marketing initiatives, who's taking point on that in addition to her role as a senior CSM. I have another individual who's managing our emerging book, which might be, SMB or your kind of long tail for some folks. And that individual really leans heavily into onboarding. So we're going to have him lead onboarding for the majority of our customers. And we've got other folks who have demonstrated really strong technical expertise, who are helping with integrations and that level of complexity with CRMs and other products. So what we've done is not necessarily created specialty roles where each person is responsible for a specific scope, but rather led by saying, these individuals have skills and expertise and interest that allows them to do and have some creative liberties to step outside of their current role as just a CSM.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And would you change their portfolio of accounts based off if they have that additional role in place? I'm just curious.
So we've made some modifications, but our staffing ratios that I put in place earlier really did allow for us to have some bandwidth to take on this stuff. So, I don't think anyone's at a capacity issue per se, but we are planning to obviously think about, as we continue to grow, what will that look like and how will it evolve? And so we've got a model in place that helps us based off of a ton of data and numbers that would suggest as we grow, what will that need to look like and what is that evolution? So right now it's a little bit of a hybrid specialty and full stack, but would love to get to a place where we actually do have more specialized roles.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And Angela, I know you're building teams on a day-to-day basis. How do you look at that mixture, that combination between those full stack, those specialized ones, and maybe what are some considerations that relate to specific times to maybe modify the organization of the CS team?
Yeah, I definitely see the difference between a PLG product and a more complex. So like I might know, after the type from, I went to a fintech API first. My support team, they were developers. no soft skills involved, and it's different. No, you talk with a head of digital transformation, talk in our case with fintech, so maybe head of a neobank. So you need definitely a different skill set of social skills to be comfortable with those conversations. But you also need to, even for that technical, you need to be able to explain the value of an API, the value of the data they are receiving in terms that they speak about, right? So it's very different because of type from online server tool. No, you just out of the box solution. Customers need help with getting the integrations, best workflow to know for sending a survey from CRM, collecting the results. It's a completely different need the customer has. More than anything, is understanding the complexity of the product, like Christy mentioned, and what the customer needs from you. No, this is a customer requires more on the onboarding, more on the best practices advice, on the workflows, and almost defining the team structure to the needs of your customer, and also the needs on our own company. In Typeform, the enterprise segment was small, the ones that have access to CSM, but the customer marketing team actually leveraged a lot of the CSM expertise to build one-to-many onboarding, the content, to build a community, a webinar. So and in the team that I'm responsible for, both customer marketing and one-to-one fall in the same org, the CS org. So it's important to understand what is the majority of buckets our work goes to. Is to answer the one-to-many that can easily be solved and faster reply with automation, digital CS, or no. In the case of the previous company, the API first, the customer is not going to have time to read, to go to a webinar. He wants to go on a call, get this answer, get his advice, and get the value from the product quickly. So definitely understanding the needs of a customer, and what also you need to allocate your own team.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And just out of curiosity, do you think people can be trained to become full stack CSMs in case, they come from a company where they were this specialized onboarding person, but then they come to an early stage PLG type of company where they need to be doing everything? Do you think it's something that is easy to train people on to make them become the best full stack CSM, or it's more of a characteristic kind of thing?
I believe in a growth mindset. So I think, if you have the will, everything can be, you can acquire any skill, but you definitely need the mindset of, so the people on my team that I found most of and with myself, I consider myself a full stack. I've been taking teams lead and then give it to someone else or hire specialists to take the next level. Is having that curiosity. Oh, the customer has a problem. Let me figure out what is missing. We're receiving a lot of tickets about this question. Let's jump on a 101 and build a CS program. And almost someone that gets bored doing only onboarding, right? I have a huge respect for specialist roles, but I know myself, and if I have to do onboardings day in and out, I'll probably get not demotivated, but my energy will be drained, right? So being able to today put a one-to-many campaign in place, and tomorrow go on a customer call, and then I think it's understanding when hiring, understanding what you need and what gives energy to the people you want to hire. Right? It's finding that match between the job you need to get done and what you feel during the interview process. That's because maybe they all did a specialized role, but when you speak about different areas, oh yeah, I love that, I did that. No, you see the excitement of being able to touch different areas of the product on organization in this case. So I definitely see more. I get more value and I see more motivation, more engagement when there's almost a personality trait, to be able to be a jack of all trades in that case.
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense. Cool. So I'm curious to hear specifically these days with the tech slowdown, with so many companies with hiring freeze, having to let go of amazing CSMs that they had on their teams. How do you look at this in light of what's happening? What are some modifications that make sense as far as how CS leaders should look at their team? I'd love to, if you can share even from some things that you maybe have done already within your teams or things that you're planning for the near future.
So I'll step in here just to kind of outline some of what we're doing. So this is very top of mind for us here at Client Success. I've navigated, the pandemic as a leader and a multitude of world things that have happened over the past decade. And, for us, what I don't want to do is shy away from the fact that this is real and it's happening and it's impacting all of our customers. So the first thing we're doing is we're actually proactively having these discussions with our customers. I don't want to design programs or start to modify how we're thinking about our team and staffing without understanding of the true impact that is happening in our customer base. So what we've actually just kicked off is an initiative to really help educate our CSMs around each of our customers and how this is impacting their business. So going back to Angela's point about intellectual curiosity, right? Just asking good questions and having that discussion, we're leaning into that, right? Not all of our customers are being negatively impacted right now. Some of them are growing exponentially. So we don't want to make assumptions that everyone is kind of going in through this phase of hiring freezes and budget cuts, because not every business is. So we don't want to design with that assumption in mind. What we want to do is educate. So that is our first step, is having really transparent conversations where we're addressing the elephant in the room and understanding how each of our customers is navigating what's happening, right? Are you going through a budget freeze? Is hiring down? Is it being cut? Are you contracting your staffing? Have you just recently taken a round of funding, or were you anticipating funding and now the lack of funding is impacting how you're growing in staffing, right? So all of I think the economies of scale, but everything that's happening in each of their individual businesses, not just their teams, not just who we work with, but as a company as a whole, what does that look like? So we're initiating with those conversations. Now, a few other things that we're doing is be very transparent. We're starting our renewal conversations earlier. Now, we already start them at 120 days. We're starting them at 6 months. Now, the reason why we're doing that is because I do believe that our product, because we serve customer success teams who are in support of their customers, we need to protect the customer base right now. Growth will slow down from a new logo standpoint. Now, again, not every business, but we're even seeing our pipeline steadily decrease from where it was, and we're only at the beginning. So which means there is a bigger emphasis on our securing our base and growing what we have. So we're starting the renewal conversations earlier to help our customers navigate what's happening in their business. These conversations starting earlier will help us lock down multi-year contracts, have pricing concessions already, kind of teed up to navigate that together. So that's going to help us kind of address what's happening in our book. Another thing that we're doing is we've defined some of the concessions and swim lanes of what we're comfortable with. Now, if a company did have their budgets cut, right? Like, what can we do to help them secure the partnership so they're not losing their technology, but also so that we're retaining the business in a way that is economical for us as well. So preparing those things in advance so our CSMs can proactively engage our customers and address that. So we're doing some of these things to obviously navigate the commercial discussions to retain our base. But from a process and program standpoint, we're really leaning into scale. That is our biggest thing right now. And so I talked a little bit about how we're leveraging the team that we have in their strengths and interests to help do more with less, or do more with what we have. Our intention is not to reduce the team that we have, but really just to see how we can modify and augment it to provide more value. So leaning very heavily into automation, leaning very heavily into kind of a one-to-many approach. That doesn't mean all push, rather bringing our customers together through community, through things like office hours, kind of webinars, trainings at scale, just to figure out how do we touch more of our customers in a way that's going to drive more value for them. We've got support now is doing kind of troubleshooting sessions as well. So if you are a customer who is trying to understand how to address something from a technical standpoint, actually having support proactively reach out to customers to address that as well. So tickets at scale. So everything that we can do with the team that we have, but to continue to drive more and push more for our customers. So a lot of modifications around economies, a lot of modifications around our process management and programs.
Super interesting.
If
One
I may-
thing that
if I
you
may
didn't
add-
mention, and I'm curious, do you also look differently at how you're measuring the people on your team? So maybe not expansions, because that is going to decrease it, but more of their efficiency. I don't know. Is that a consideration as well?
It is. And so interestingly enough, our growth strategy is on licenses, right? We sell more licenses as teams grow. Well, guess what? If teams aren't growing and teams are contracting, that impacts even our numbers, right, for renewals, right? If a team went from 20 CSMs to 10 CSMs, that's 10 less licenses. So what we are doing right now is we're having proactive conversations with product. And so in the past, I think we've built a lot of things into our product, which customers had access to. And our new approach will be give them a little bit and then charge if they want more. So as we add on things, we're going through our roadmap right now and mapping out what are the different modules we can add on where we can give our customers some of that for free. But if they want to continue to use and grow that, where are we going to be able to charge more? Because the license model of growth is going to be negatively impacted if we do go into a real recession. So I think we're very proactively thinking about our growth strategy, but from a product standpoint, because again, like I said, license growth dependent on hiring and teams growing doesn't seem like a good approach right now.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting.
I know Kobe had something to add. I'm super
interested. No worries. I didn't want to rule you. You were great. And so from my point of view, I think that I really think that what you mentioned is super relevant to focus on the existing business to NRR. I can tell you that the focus today of the board and the management team is on NRR. We know that it's very difficult to bring new business in, and we are struggling for every new dollar that will come in. And one of the focus points for the CSM team is to be to take advantage of the business capabilities, the biz dev capabilities of the team. And for today, for example, that I have 2 open vacancies in my team, I'm looking for people who are a good business acumen, that will know how to identify the opportunities. Of course, on top, the ability to build a relationship and to have a wide set of skills. But this is something that is very important at this point. And I can tell you that sometimes it's difficult for the customer success manager to focus on, asking the right question, asking the questions that are business oriented. And it's very, the boundary between being a trusted advisor and to help grow the account is something that is very difficult to maintain. So we need to find the right people that can drive this conversation without, let's say, negatively impacting their position as trusted advisors. So I think that's kind of a change in the perception that we are doing in the recent months.
Interesting. How would you kind of explain that personality that needs that balance? Like, who are those type of CSMs?
So I will say that it's very difficult to find domain experts who are also good in relationship and also have good business capabilities and also know how to project management. So I can tell you that the the less interviews or the less people that I spoke with had past experience in sales. And they did one or two positions of CSM role in the last year, since this is a must. But the past experience from the sales is definitely something that is very, very clear, that can be as an advantage. We see how they ask questions, we see how they are mapping the organization, we see how they are asking the right question in the right time without being shy about asking a business. Christy mentioned that you speak with the customers 6 months before the renewal. You're not fearing from the answer. You need to ask the right question. You need to be bold, and you need to ask the right question to identify the opportunities, all the threats, obviously.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm curious. So, Christy, you mentioned a little bit automation and scale. Could you maybe any of you give any advice to companies that are looking to become more efficient, automate some of their processes, maybe add technology to it in order to really make sure that even though their CS team is smaller, they can still take care of all their customers in the best way possible?
I can start. Sorry.
No, please, how about it?
So definitely, for context, today I'm a team of one. I'm the only CS person. Claap is very new, 2 years old. We just launched a product 2 months ago, so complete different stage than Kobe and Christy are in. So definitely, I live technology every day. Between intercom to set up our one-to-many onboarding sequence, engagement, even upselling. Full story, very important to be able to see user sessions when you can talk to every customer, even to prepare for a call. You can see how they the actions they are taking in the product. To understand blockers for activation, by using intercom segments, we can break down the everyone that signed up last week, those are activated that didn't, and what actions, what messages receive, and how they perform different in the product. So definitely leveraging as much information as you can from your own product events, from the support tickets you receive, listening to the community. I'm active on LinkedIn, but I also follow by clients on LinkedIn to be able to know what I talk about is important for them, if they're going through a difficult time or not. So definitely combining the data you have, you're able to do a bit more than if you had to hire a bigger team to take care of different areas of the CS.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Christy, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, so I think for us, really what we're focusing on is, or the advice that I would give is like the way we're approaching it, we're not trying to build a scale program, right? And I think that what happens is people think about like, they hear the word scale or they hear tech touch or whatever, language we're using these days. And they think that the entire program needs to have some introduced automation, right? Like you have to be able to do every single thing this way in order to say that we've got this. And I'll tell you, that's just the wrong mindset. What we're trying to do is take each thing that my team is responsible for, right? Each interaction that drives value for our customers and reassess it. Do we need to be doing that with a person? Is there a better way to think about how approaching it, right? And it's not even just, how we engage, but really from a value standpoint, we've gone through and done an inventory assessment on all of the content we have, right? How do we take what we have and reuse that and repurpose it and reintroduce it? What are the mechanisms that we're using, right? So Angela, you talked about using intercom. We also use intercom, right? But not all content should be in app. Not all content should be in writing. How do we think about video? How do we think about webinars? How do we think about asynchronous communication? So we're literally just taking individual tasks and activities and breaking it down and saying, can we modify this? And it's those small nuanced approaches that are helping us do more with less. I think something else about the way that we're thinking about scale is that I think a lot of folks also tend to think about that approach working for just their smaller customers. The reality of it is you can drive a ton of value through automation and approaching and modifying your programs for all your customers, right? Even your biggest ones who you might talk to every single day will benefit if you are introducing content and engagement and community in a thoughtful way at the right time. So we're really just trying to break down small things. And so I think the advice I'd give to everyone is don't try to boil the ocean, don't eat the elephant, right? Like whatever analogy you want to use, figure out what small ways you can modify what you're doing today using what you have access to. I'll tell you, G Suite has amazing tools, right? You can use Google Forms, go use Google Docs, create shared environments, Google website. You can go and create a website portal for your customers, right? The reality of it is there are so many free tools out there or tools that your company has. I worked at a company previously. We did SaaS apps management. On average, most companies had 200 technologies in their tech stack. 200. Even if you have a fraction of that, how do you use the tools that other teams are using, right? What does your marketing team use? Can you use that? What is sales using? Can you use that, right? Go figure out what are the tools that you have access to and get creative with how do you leverage that. So look at free things, look at things you already have access to, and just get creative leveraging what you have to enhance experiences with less people.
Mhm. Agreed. Kobe, anything from your side?
I can tell you that we are definitely using the existing data that we have, especially in Salesforce. And I think that what's nice is that we are working in collaboration with the sales team to bring the data as a template, meaning that some of the data that we would like the pre-sale guy and the sales guy to bring in, it definitely helps us to make things easier during the implementation, to whether it's to automate or to reduce the amount of meetings that we need to have in order to get more information. So I couldn't agree more.
All right, I think we don't have any questions. So I want to thank all of you at this point. I think this was a very valuable discussion that our audience would enjoy. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all very much. This is a
Thanks.
great conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Everyone.